Welcome back to Legalese 123, where we are covering cases across America. Hello and welcome back to Legalese 123. I'm your host, Misty K. Hope you are doing well on this Tuesday, the afternoon of December. Oh my goodness. February the 24th. I don't know what year it is. I've got so much going on with the Kouri Richins case and dates and stuff in my head. And anyways, long story short, remember, I'm parsing things out. So we are getting ready for the medical examiner to come in. My headphones died, so I got these on, but it's okay. You're in it for the testimony. You're not in it for what I got going on. So let's get right into it. Medical examiner is on deck. We're going to go ahead and see what she has to say.
Thank you. Mr. Burmester.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Pamela Sue Ulmer, U-L-M-E-R.
Ms. Ulmer, are you employed?
No, I'm retired.
In 2022, were you employed?
Yes, I was a medical examiner at the Utah Office of the Medical Examiner.
There's a term forensic pathologist. Is that what the capacity you were serving in?
That's correct.
What is a forensic pathologist?
So a pathologist is a medical doctor who has gone through all of the medical training and then done residency in pathology. For a forensic pathologist, we do additional training in forensic pathology specifically, and then we sit for boards and take all of our board certifications for both pathology and forensic pathology.
I see. So when you receive a body, just generally speaking, into the OME, what is the procedure? What happens?
So basically, I'll start at the scene because an investigator will be at the scene. And then the body at that point will get sealed in a body bag that has a seal identification number on it, goes through the zipper pull so that it can't be tampered with while it's being transferred from the scene to the office. Once it gets to the office, then it's brought in and documented by a ward clerk who's going to put various information into the computer, identifying information stuff. We used to actually open the body bag at that time and take an identification photo, and then the body would go into the cooler. But I believe we changed our policy though, so that at the time that that was going on, the body bag was still sealed when it went into the cooler, and it wasn't unsealed until we would start the autopsy examination.
So did you perform an autopsy on the body of a person named Kouri Richins on March 5th of 2022?
I did.
You recall about what time that began?
I don't have any paperwork with me, but it was around 7:30 in the morning.
I see. You very briefly went into your education. Could you give us a brief description of your education to become a forensic pathologist?
Sure. So medical training is a 4-year degree. I specifically went to an osteopathic school, but whether it's an osteopathic or an allopathic school, it's the same type of training. So I did my medical school at Des Moines University in Iowa. Then I went on to do my pathology residency training at Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. So that's typically either a 3-year or 4-year program, depending on what you're doing. For me, because I was going into forensic pathology, I opted to do 3 years of pathology and then 2 years of forensic pathology training to take care of all of my residency and fellowship training.
I see. So after all your training, where did you go next?
So I did my fellowship. The first year of my fellowship was at King County Medical Examiner's Office in Seattle. And then at that point, I still had 1 more year of training that I needed to do, but I got hired on at the medical examiner's office in Salt Lake City. And so we coordinated so that my first year at the office would also count as my 2nd year of forensic pathology training.
I see. Did you stay on then after that year?
I did.
Okay. How long did you serve then at the Utah Medical Examiner?
So I started my employment there in July of 2009, and I retired January 1st of 2023.
That 2009 is including that year of
Training, yes.
Yes. Okay. Are you, or at the time, were you certified by any certifying board?
Yes, so I was certified in anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology by the Board of Pathology.
Were you a member of any professional organizations?
Over the years, I've been a member of a variety of pathology-related and forensic pathology organizations, including the National Association of Medical Examiners, as well as the American Society of Clinical Pathology
Have you ever testified as an expert in forensic pathology?
multiple times.
Okay. Do you have a ballpark figure for how many times?
You know, I don't have my case log anymore, so a lot of it was preliminary hearings for various cases, and then as well as doing like other types of cases. So maybe about 70, between 75 and 100 times for all of my testifying.
When you do an autopsy, first of all, what is an autopsy, I guess?
So it's an external and internal examination of the body. So we're basically looking for why the person died. We do an external examination describing any unique features of the body. In a forensic autopsy, we also describe like the clothing, any identifying features like the color of the eyes, any tattoos, anything like that, because we need to know who the person is as well as why they died. So all of those items get documented. Additionally, any like scars or anything like that to show any prior medical procedures or injuries. Any injuries that they might have sustained, whether it's bruising or gunshot wound or anything like that. And then once all of the external items are documented, then we start on the internal examination. So we'll do a Y-shaped incision on the chest. Skin gets reflected as well as the fat and muscle. And then we can see the rib cage. The rib cage will get removed. Then we're looking at all of the organs in the chest and abdomen. So those all get examined in the body, and then they're removed and weighed to see if they look normal and whether they're of normal weight or within range of normal weight. And then we do the same thing with the head. We'll make an incision across the top of the head, reflect the scalp, and cut the skull off so that we can look at the brain in place and then remove the brain and look at it out on the table and weigh it. Everything is sliced so that we can make sure there's no natural disease on the inside that would explain why they're dead. Like if a person had a stroke, we might see that in their brain. If they had a heart attack, we might see a blood clot in their heart, or there might be muscle deterioration. So a lot of different things that we can examine and document to explain why the person is dead. We also draw different blood samples, urine sample, gastric contents. We're looking at all of that so that A, we can see what it looks like, and B, so then we can retain it for toxicology purposes.
I see. So you go through, it sounds like you go through these methodically, like system by bodily system.
Yes,
Okay, is that the standard in your field?
it is.
You mentioned also that you take samples, blood, gastric, etc. Do you always analyze those, or is that just by case by case?
Some items are case by case. We'll routinely do toxicology analysis on blood and vitreous fluid. So that allows us to screen for common things, and then we can determine whether an expanded panel is needed or other testing. Since this case was during the COVID era, pretty much everybody was getting swabs so that COVID PCR could be done. And then there's other microbiological cultures that might be performed on a case-by-case basis, as well as other types of laboratory testing for, say, like potassium level or something like that. So it depends on why we think the person might have died to answer those questions.
Do those samples get sent out to other labs, or are they examined internally at the medical examiner's office?
They get sent out to other laboratories.
I see. You talk now about generally the procedure. Is that what you followed in this case?
Yes.
Okay. With identification, you mentioned right off the bat is an important thing. Is that what you did in this case?
Yes. So obviously at the scene, because he was at his residence, his wife was able to identify him. But we also look at photographic identification, meaning driver's license, and we can compare that to the individual to make sure that they look like their photo. So that's if it's a case where there's additional identification needed, because maybe we don't know who they are and they don't have any identification with them, then we can do fingerprint analysis, or we have to go further, we can do DNA analysis.
But you didn't have to in this case.
No.
So do you have a worksheet or something that you use as you go along and write information, such as the time, the seal number, and all those things?
Yes, there's an autopsy worksheet.
Okay. Can I show to the witness State's Exhibit 10-4? Do you see that up there?
Yes.
Could you, do you recognize it?
So it's a body diagram
Okay.
showing notes that I made during the autopsy.
Okay, and is it a true and accurate copy of that worksheet?
Yes.
State would offer State's Exhibit 10-4.
Yes. Okay. 10-4 is admitted.
Would ask to publish that.
Here we are.
Okay, there's one thing I wanted to have you identify is that, have you written down the tag number from the seal?
Yes, I have.
And what's that number?
It's 0002713.
Let's move on then to the external exam. What did you notice or anything? We can take 10. I don't think that 10-4 is necessary.
So basically, he had evidence that he had received CPR. He had an endotracheal tube in his mouth. He had needles in both shoulders in order for IV fluid to be submitted. He also had defibrillator pads that were on him. There was really no evidence of injury. EKG pads were also present, and I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, was there blood present externally on his face?
There was.
Can you explain that?
So in cases of potential drug overdose, it is not unusual for opiate overdoses specifically to have pulmonary edema. So you've got foaming of the mouth coming from the lungs. And then in addition to that, then when you are receiving CPR and you have that intrathoracic pressure that every time a compression is made, that's contributing to the lung injury. And so it's not unusual to have blood seeping out with that fluid from just the vasculature of the lungs. But in addition, when somebody gets intubated, there's a risk that they might get mouth injury or they might get other injury just when the tube is being inserted. And so with that, every time you're doing a compression, you've got potentially a blood-tinged fluid that's spurting out.
Did you see any evidence of injury that contributed to death during your external examination?
No.
Okay. Let's move on then to your internal examination. What is the first thing that you look at?
Well, the first thing I looked at were the ribs. He had rib fractures on the left side, on the front. I believe it was ribs 4 and 5 were fractured, which was most likely from CPR. And then you remove the chest plate and you're looking at the heart and lungs.
Well, let's take a look then. Let's go down system by system. Did you lay those out system by system in a report that you subsequently produced?
I did.
Okay. Cardiovascular system. There's a mention here of 50% occlusion. Could you tell the jury a little bit about what that means?
So it just means that he had the beginning stages of coronary artery disease, so that the lumen of the vessels in his heart were thickened. It's usually not thought to be significant until they're at least 75% occluded or more. And this is a common finding in adult males in general, and then adult women as they also age. There was no indication of any kind of coronary artery thrombus to indicate that he had a blood clot form in his heart and cause a heart attack. And so there was no damage to the heart muscle. The heart was within normal range for weight.
Okay. So that was not a cause of death?
No.
Okay. Respiratory system, you noted trachea, bronchi, foam present.
Correct.
I think you've said that was probably from CPR.
So it's probably originated from his fentanyl overdose.
I see. Okay.
CPR can also cause pulmonary edema, but since he had no return of circulation during this CPR process, the majority of that fluid and that foam probably originated from the drug overdose, but CPR can still contribute to it.
I see. Okay. Pleural surface small tan white nodules.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So on the surface of his lungs, he had these little tiny white nodules all over, which are little granulomas. I looked at them. So in addition to removing all of the organs, I also did histologic examination on the main organs, which means I took a little piece of tissue so that it could then be cut very thinly and then stained and looked at under the microscope. So
and did you look under the microscope at these?
I did.
Okay.
And so you can visually see them on the lungs just looking at them grossly. There's, they were very obvious. And they're just little small granulomas that were coating the surface of the lungs.
I see. And is there some significance in this case about those?
There is, because his history, his work employment history, he was a stonemason. And so all of that dust that's created when you're cutting either brick or blocks, you can inhale it if you're not wearing a respirator or a mask. And then that goes into your lungs, and your body tries to protect itself by sequestering that stuff off. And so then these little granulomas form.
I see. Did that contribute to his death?
I don't believe it did. He had the granulomas present. He also had a small amount of pleural fluid present associated with these, but it wasn't significant enough. There wasn't like scar tissue that was in his lungs that was preventing him from breathing or anything like that. So I felt like it did not contribute to his death.
Did you note anything about his liver and biliary system? Biliary?
From my recollection, the liver was normal. There was no surprises there.
Okay. What did you note, if anything, about the digestive system?
Again, I don't have any notes in front of me, but he had about 700 milliliters of pink fluid that also had like food particles in it that were partially digested. Some of that was retained and saved for toxicology purposes.
Did you have a discussion with Brianna Peterson from NMS about the volume that you measured from the gastric?
I may have. I don't recollect it.
I see. Do you have any idea about the pink coloration? Is that from anything that you're aware of, or
No.
is it okay? Urogenital system.
Okay.
Was there anything? Did you note? Anything?
Kidneys looked fine. Bladder looked fine. The genitalia all looked normal within limits. So.
Reticuloendothelial system.
So that's referring to more like your organs, like the spleen or lymph nodes, things that have to do with immune response. And he did have. So when you have those types of granulomas in the lungs, it's not unusual for the lymph nodes surrounding the lungs to also have the same kind of stuff in them and also have granuloma formation. And I did see that when I did histology on those lymph nodes in that area.
I see.
Otherwise, the spleen and everything was normal.
Okay. Endocrine system. Was there anything that you documented?
No.
Excuse me. And musculoskeletal system. Anything?
Other than the rib fractures, it was all normal.
I see. Now you mentioned you sent some samples out to histology. Did you receive those things back and look under the microscope yourself later?
I did. For part of them I did. Part of them were examined, I guess, at the state lab. So let me clarify. So we did microbiology testing of the lungs, which you just collect a swab. And so each lung was swabbed and sent to the lab. We had that tested for bacterial infection as well as fungal infection and then TB infection. And that was significant because we had all of these granulomas in the lungs, as well as he recently had a history of having COVID. And so just to confirm that there was no active infection going on that I could document that was causing those granulomas, like TB, for example, or any kind of fungal infection, all to explain what was going on in the lungs. And the only thing that I saw, again, was the granulomas that were due to his work history. In addition, I did special stains to confirm that there were no fungal elements present and that there were no significant changes to the lung tissue, as well as the heart and the liver and the kidneys. I did see the granulomas in the lungs and those lymph nodes.
So absolutely no fungal infection in the lungs?
No. And to clarify, that was not by culture, that was only by looking at the stain. So
did you, no, we'll get to that, I guess, in just a minute. I guess with histology, you also sent out liver samples, epiglottis, or was this just part of your internal exam? Maybe I mixed that up.
I think I did submit a section of the epiglottis, and I'm not sure whether that was specifically because he had a history of allergies that was reported, and just to confirm that there was no evidence of anaphylaxis.
And was there?
The tissue was denuded, but I did not see any evidence of histamine release granules that were in the tissue itself. So I can't, it did not appear that anaphylaxis was an issue.
Did you send out samples or send out samples to the health department for disease and fungal cultures?
So I did for the bacterial cultures, I did for the TB stain or the Mycobacterium stain, and yeah, I don't have the autopsy report in front of me, so I can't answer a lot of this stuff.
Would it be helpful to look at your report?
It would be, yes.
Your face is like, I don't know. It's been a long time and I'm retired now. So, by the way, if you take 2023 minus 2009, it's only 14 years. So, why did she retire after 14 years? Most doctors are still in it. She looks fairly young, so maybe.
They approach the photos. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes, this is the report that was generated by myself after the autopsy examination was performed on Mr. Richins.
Can you find the portion of your report where you're talking about disease, the samples that you sent to the public health lab?
So for the public health lab, we did an Auramine O stain, which is a special stain that they do looking for acid-fast bacteria, and that's to help rule out tuberculosis, which again would be something that would cause that type of granuloma pattern on the lungs. And that was negative as reported by them because they observed it. I did not look at that particular slide. In addition, we did bacterial cultures, again, on the right and left lung. Those grew up multiple organisms, and when I see that, usually what it means is it's just normal flora from the respiratory tree, and then as you are dead, these organisms just continue to grow inside your body, and so you will see more of them show up with these postmortem cultures. If the person was dead from a specific bacterial infection, say like streptococcal pneumonia or something like that, you should predominantly just see the streptococcal bacteria and not all of this other stuff quite as broadly. So that just looked like postmortem change. And then we did a blood bacterial culture, which also, it came back no growth. And so there was no evidence of any kind of sepsis. The COVID swab for SARS-CoV-2, which is the organism name, that was positive. So he did test positive for COVID. And my understanding is that he had been sick with COVID-like symptoms, more of like a cold, recently prior to his death. But at the time of autopsy, he did not show any evidence of like pneumonia that we would normally see for someone who's dying from COVID.
Your Honor, there's a good little portion left. I wanted to know, based on time, if this could we break and return to Dr. Ulmer, or would it be?
Any objection, Mr. Ramos?
No, everybody would like that.
Okay. I need you to sit tight for just a moment, if you don't mind. Folks, let's take a lunch break. We have lunch for you. It's 12:10. Why don't we come back at 12:45? Is that agreeable, Council?
Here for the state?
No problem. 1 o'clock?
I'll take anything. Thank you, Judge.
Okay. 1 p.m. We'll be back on the record. I appreciate it. Please stand for the jury.
Okay. They're taking lunch. We aren't. No, nobody got time for that. All right, let's make sure that I'm still on fasty fast mode. Yep. Still on fasty fast mode.
Public Health Department is the tox.
Oops.
Health Department. Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Ulmer, when we last left off, we were talking about the results from the Public Health Department.
Yes.
Neighboring the Public Health Department is the tox lab. My understanding is there was you had sent a vitreous sample to the tox lab for testing there.
It was routine to send vitreous samples to the state toxicology lab for volatile testing, which would be looking for various alcohols, like alcohol that you would ingest, like ethyl alcohol or methanol or other alcohols that could be determined whether that would participate in the cause of death or not.
The vitreous fluid is from the eyes.
That's correct.
Okay. So in this case, did you get a result back from them?
If I can get that report back, that would be helpful.
Like
But my recollection was that the vitreous fluid was negative for any type of volatiles.
a she's got so many facial expressions.
Yes, it's none detected for ethanol, acetone, isopropanol, or methanol.
Okay. Is there something important about vitreous versus blood with regards to alcohol that
For
you're
one,
aware of?
well, it's multiple things actually. For one thing, it's kind of a sequestered area. You don't have direct blood flow to that area, so things just kind of pass through the membranes as opposed to having direct blood flow. And so it's kind of protected and it's delayed. And so like if you're comparing like a blood alcohol to the vitreous alcohol, the blood alcohol will be different than the vitreous alcohol depending on whether the alcohol is going up or going down in the intoxication time frame.
I see.
And then also because it's protected, you're less likely to have bacterial contamination of the vitreous fluid because some bacteria produce alcohols during decomposition. So you have more of the sequestered environment.
Okay, so more perfect record, so to speak.
Yes.
So did you, you also sent out samples to NMS labs?
That's correct.
And what is NMS labs to your knowledge?
I'm sorry.
What is NMS labs to your knowledge? I mean,
They're a reference laboratory that does toxicology testing. So they do clinical toxicology as well as forensic toxicology. And we were using them at that time for any of our more complicated cases.
I see. Okay, and so you sent it, and this lab is located in a different state or something?
That's correct. I believe it's in Pennsylvania.
I see. Did you get a result from them?
I did.
And what information did you get?
So the primary information was that there was a fentanyl level of 15 and a norfentanyl level of 3.3, and those are both in nanograms per mil. Additional information that was not confirmed but still indicated presence was naloxone, caffeine, and 4-ANPP.
Okay, so, and that's
Okay.
from the,
She said a lot of things there. I got to go back because she's going real
from
fast.
them?
I did.
And what information did you get?
So the primary information was that there was a fentanyl level of 15 and a norfentanyl level of 3.3, and those are both
Norfent of 3.15. Okay.
grams per mil. Additional information that was not confirmed but still indicated presence was naloxone, caffeine, and 4-ANPP.
Caffeine. I don't know what 4-ANPP is.
So, and that's from the blood samples that were sent?
Correct. I'm sorry, because we did two different stages of testing. So this was all of the blood testing. And then after I got this testing back and we decided we needed more information, then we also had testing performed on gastric contents. And the purpose of that was to, A, determine if there were any other drugs present in the stomach contents that weren't necessarily showing up in the blood test, and then B, to give an idea of where the fentanyl might be coming from, because the question would be, was it orally ingested or was it injected, or, trying to narrow that down a little bit.
Okay.
And so that was part of the rationale for doing the gastric testing.
Let's stick to the blood for a minute. First of all, where did you draw the blood?
So initially they probably would have attempted to do a femoral stick, but because when you die and you start going through all of these changes that your body goes through after you're dead, the blood clots. And so I'm not sure if this was specifically what happened for this case, but they probably tried to draw femoral blood. And because it's a smaller gauge needle, because they're just going down through the skin, they were probably unsuccessful in getting any of the blood to come up into the needle in any significant amount.
When you say they, who is they?
The autopsy techs assisting on the case with the autopsy. So that we have folks who are trained to assist with the autopsies. And so they will a lot of times do the toxicology sample collection.
So it's a team.
It's a team.
You and these other personnel.
That's correct. Our office is way too busy to just have the doc go boom, 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 and do everything. So
I see. And so did whoever drew the blood from that team, where did they end up getting it from?
So they ended up having to go inside when we opened the body up, and they entered in through the inferior vena cava. And then you direct it down towards the femoral artery, because the syringe that you're using when you're collecting these samples, when you're going into the body, not through the skin, but once you're inside and actually doing it, is a huge syringe with a big long needle. So the needle itself is probably 5 to 6 inches long.
I see. So I'm not sure, femoral artery, I gather, is the legs
You're going for the, yeah. So it's
by your finger.
but usually when you're collecting it, when you're going through the skin, you're going in the groin area.
I see.
And so you kind of go femoral, inguinal region. And so in this particular case, we weren't necessarily getting specifically femoral blood, but we weren't getting blood specifically from the inferior vena cava either. It was in that region.
Okay, so what is the inferior vena cava?
So in the body, you have
Sure.
arteries and veins. The
Artery.
arteries, generally, you're taking blood from the lungs that's oxygenated, and the heart distributes it out to the different portions of your body.
Okay.
And then the veins bring the deoxygenated blood back. And so the best source for collecting toxicology samples is peripheral blood, which is further away.
Okay.
And so when you're talking about the inferior vena cava, the leg veins come back and they connect in the middle, and this is the inferior vena cava that then eventually moves the blood back up to the heart. And so that's the process of bringing the peripheral blood then back up. And so it's still essentially peripheral blood, but you're getting closer to the major organs.
Okay, we'll talk about any problems with that in just a minute. So this quantity, you said there was, I think you said 15 nanograms per milliliter of fentanyl?
That's correct.
Okay. As a medical examiner, is that, explain what the importance of that number is.
So what you're doing is you're taking the information that you have and you're looking and comparing it to what would be expected in someone who's not taking the drug at all. You expect not to find any. Someone who's taking it as a prescribed medication, so you expect it to be within therapeutic range. And then once you start seeing above that, then you have the potential to go into a level that would be toxic. And if it's high enough, then potentially cause death.
Okay. And in this case, the number 15 nanograms in the blood, given its location.
So with the information available to me at the time of the autopsy, the decedent did not have a history of any kind of illicit drug use or prescription medication abuse. So the fentanyl level should have been 0. There should not have been any fentanyl or norfentanyl present. The fact that I have fentanyl present tells me that fentanyl was obviously ingested at some point recent. And then if you try to manipulate from the information that's available in the toxicology report, as well as other toxicology references, then there's kind of estimated therapeutic range versus toxic range versus.
15 nanograms per milliliter, is that a toxic range?
In someone who is not prescribed this medication and taking it routinely, it is toxic.
And what is norfentanyl?
Norfentanyl is a metabolite of fentanyl. So you're ingesting the fentanyl drug, and then it's being absorbed and going through the liver, and then you are having it broken down into other pieces, and norfentanyl is one of those metabolites.
Okay. And okay, when it breaks down, like, is it the body's way of getting rid of this toxin? I mean, it's breaking it down so it can.
It could be breaking it down to be getting rid of it, or it could be breaking it down into a component that actually does the work.
I see.
So the drug that you ingest may not be the drug that's active. It might break down into other components that are active, or there might be other variables that play into it that I'm not describing very well because it's been too long since I've done this.
At some point in your at some point in this process, did you request a Doppel report? You know, the report of any prescriptions.
That was a routine process that we did on cases, just to review and see if there were things that we should be paying attention to. And in this particular case, I believe that we reviewed at least 1 year's worth of medical history, and we might have gone back even a little bit further once we saw the fentanyl present. But I don't have any further information other than just the fact that there was nothing that was seen except for some testosterone, I believe, was the only thing that we saw that was in Doppel. So they don't see all medications. I think they just predominantly see things that are classified.
Schedule 1,
Right,
2, 3.
right.
Your Honor, I'd like to just show the court and the council States Exhibit 1-27.
One moment, please. I'll fix that. I promise. Scott, do me a favor. Would you mind unplugging and plugging back in to see if that helps?
While I'm sitting here, I can zoom. So fascinating to watch them
Gosh,
with their
so-
tech
Your
bugs.
Honor, the state would proffer that 1-27 is a self-authenticating document, and we would offer States 127.
Is there any objection on that? Is this a one-page document?
It should be 2 pages, Your Honor.
Scott, can I see the second page? I don't know that Mr. Ramos saw the second page. And you should take a look at the second page.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Of course.
Like there seems to be a problem with this document or whatever it is that they're looking at.
Excuse me.
Oops,
Mr. Burmester, your next exhibit or next question, please.
Yes. The excuse me.
they did.
So, did the medical examiner's office receive prescription medication bottles and or prescriptions with the body?
Yes, they did.
And so, did you or your team make note of those?
Yes, there was information in the investigator's report, and then there's also a separate form that shows the inventory that would have been done by a different investigator.
Can I take a look at States or Defense Exhibit 3006? I think that's been offered and admitted and published. So,
Hasn't been published yet, but.
oh, it hasn't? Okay. We asked that it be published.
Okay, one moment. There you go.
Okay. So there appears to be 5 substances. Can you?
Okay, we talked about this a little bit. So there is the testosterone. And okay, so there's testosterone. the doxycycline, the hydrocodone, hydrocodone, uh, disulfiram, which I'm assuming is like a allergy medicine, and the naltrexone. All right.
I guess they're not substances. These are taken from labels of bottles.
Yes, these are medications.
Okay. Can you, starting from the top, going down to the bottom, can we talk about those?
So there's an injectable form of testosterone, doxycycline, hydrocodone / acetaminophen, and then disulfiram and naltrexone.
Okay, so what is the doxycycline?
It's an antibiotic. It's a broad spectrum antibiotic.
And according to the label, when was that prescribed?
That was prescribed July 3rd of 2019.
By Dr. Peterson?
Correct.
Okay, then the next one is hydrocodone.
It was prescribed June 29th of 2016 by Dr. Charles Lynn.
Okay. And hydrocodone, do you know what that is? Or
It's a pain medication. It's another opiate pain medication.
okay. Then we've got disulfiram.
Disulfiram was prescribed December 9th of 2019 by Dr. Andrew Peterson.
And does it have multiple uses?
It does. As a prescribed drug, it's commonly used for alcohol prevention. So another common name for it is
Oh.
antabuse. And then as an off-label use, it's used for chronic symptoms of Lyme disease.
I see.
Oh,
And naltrexone.
Naltrexone was prescribed August 24th of 2020 by Dr. Hunderman. Again, it's also used for helping to prevent people from drinking. And then it's also used for opiate reduction. So
And does it have an off-label use?
it's also used for chronic symptoms or complications from Lyme disease.
mm.
And this last one was prescribed in when?
2020. It's August 24th of 2020.
And how many were prescribed according to the label?
90 pills were prescribed. There were still 88 pills that were remaining.
Now, this is probably a super dumb question, but take hydrocodone, for example. If it's old and beyond its expiration date, does it spoil, like food spoils and becomes more toxic or not?
Not that I'm aware of. Generally, what happens is that these medications tend to get less useful. They get weaker, if anything, but pretty much for a lot of them, they're stable for a really long time.
Let's move on. You said that at some point you asked to have NMS lab examine the gastric contents.
I did.
And you published a second report?
Yes.
This is the-
Very telling information. What you think is one thing is something else.
In case you have to, if you can't remember, oh, you've got the gastric in the main one?
I hope. Well, the supplemental is attached with the
I mean, she
original,
did
so-
say
about it.
that he
So,
had Lyme disease.
What was tested for out of the gastric contents?
So again, it was for a complex toxicology panel that does, a wide range of drugs. And in this particular, so in the gastric contents, and I just have to be careful when I'm looking at this because they've combined both items into one report. So there was some ethanol present. That was 279 milligrams per deciliter.
Okay, let's talk about that for just a second. Does that mean there was 279 milligrams per deciliter of vodka or beer in his stomach? when they tested it?
Well, it's not that simple because you have to take the volume of the gastric contents and then determine a bunch of information. So in essence, yes, per the aliquot that was measured, this is my understanding of it, that's the amount that was present in that test.
Now, you mentioned before about decomposition. Is that a potential problem for this
It
gastric
is.
sample?
It is, because you'll have bacterial contamination in the stomach, and so that could potentially create a false positive.
Is there a way to determine what is alcoholic beverage versus decomposition alcohol?
No.
Okay. What else did you receive back?
So there was a presumptive positive for acetaminophen. There was a presumptive positive for caffeine. Quetiapine, which is an antipsychotic medication, was present at 16,000 nanograms per mil.
Okay, hang on. Caffeine, acetaminophen. Hang on, let's back it up.
Presumptive positive for caffeine. Quetiapine, which is an antipsychotic medication.
Okay, so remember, they found the clotidamine in the house, and that was under Kouri Richins' name.
Medication was present at 16,000 nanograms per mil. The ethanol level was confirmed. Again, fentanyl was present at 20,000 nanograms per mil. And then norfentanyl was present at 52 nanograms per mil. And acetylfentanyl was present at 29 nanograms per mil.
As a medical examiner, do those numbers mean something particular to you?
They mean call the toxicologist.
Okay.
Basically, as a medical examiner, I can say that we know that he reportedly had a drink at bedtime, so that might explain that presence of ethanol, or it could be decomposition, either one. We know that he was not reported to be taking any medication, so then I have no explanation for the quetiapine or the norfentanyl or fentanyl or the acetylfentanyl.
You've already said if for someone who is not using fentanyl that the 15 nanograms per milliliter in the blood was potentially toxic.
Correct.
How about 20,000 nanograms per milliliter in the stomach?
I can honestly say, since I haven't talked to a toxicologist in over 3 years, that I would defer to them, because it sounds like a lot, but without having reference ranges to go by or someone to consult, I would not jump on that bandwagon by myself.
Quetiapine, did you find any evidence that he had been prescribed quetiapine, either through Doppel or through the medicines that you looked at?
No, and I didn't see any mention of it in the medical records that I had reviewed at that time. So,
well, that's a good point. When you made your report, were you able to come to an opinion, a conclusion?
yes,
About cause and manner of death?
yes.
And at that time, what was it that you were relying on to render this opinion?
So I was relying on information that was provided by family members on, how he'd been feeling or how he'd been acting. I was relying on information that was acquired by our death investigator. I was relying on information provided by law enforcement. And then I was also reviewing medical records from the physicians that I knew of that I could get records from.
In addition to your own observations of autopsy.
Right. And then in addition to,
Lab
reviewing Doppel and seeing what
So-
his history was.
Okay, so what was your opinion of the cause of death?
My opinion of the cause of death was drug intoxication by fentanyl.
In addition to the NMS labs, was there other evidence that you looked at specifically, say for example, pulmonary edema, that corroborated the information that NMS labs provided?
Yes, he had heavy lungs and foamy edema. Like I said before, some of that could have been contributed to the CPR, but it was still quite an abundant amount that was present. So I would have a hard time excluding that that wasn't also caused by the drug intoxication.
That's primarily occurs due to opioids,
Yes,
and
it can happen with other medications too that cause respiratory depression,
but there weren't any other intoxicants or medications other than
That-
fentanyl
that were
quetiapine
prescribed or that were contributing.
that we know of. There was quetiapine found, fentanyl found.
Quetiapine can cause some sedation, but in this instance where we didn't initially see it in the blood,
Mhm.
I don't know what to make of that since it was only seen in the gastric.
What opinion did you come to with regards to manner of death?
Could not be determined.
Okay, now let's talk about that determination is guided by a statutory scheme. Is that true?
Yes, we have classifications that it's divided into, and basically it's for statistical purposes, it's
If anybody knows the Karen Reed case. Oh, she couldn't determine the manner of death. Well, you should have had me and Jeff do it. Sorry, had to go there. If you don't know the Karen Reed case, the Michael Proctor, who was the lead investigator from the Massachusetts State Police, was on a text thread with a whole bunch of his other Massachusetts State Police people in his unit, and they had stated that they had told the medical examiner all of the things that they knew, and therefore they felt that she should return a homicide, and she didn't. She determined an undetermined, and one of the other people texted, I think it was DeChico, and he said, you should have had me and Jeff do it, and was Jeff Kakowski and DeChico, like they would have bullied the medical examiner to make it in the finding of what they wanted was the illusion. So why did she make it undetermined?
Scheme, is that true?
yes, we have classifications that it's divided into, and basically it's for statistical purposes, it's not really designed for other purposes per se. And so we're limited to natural, accident, homicide. I'm just blanking here. It's
Suicide?
Suicide,
Right.
and then undetermined as well. And so because this investigation was still ongoing when I retired, I felt that could not be determined was the best solution for me to finish my report before I retired.
So were there some, since the investigation's ongoing, you didn't have access to certain things?
Correct?
Did you have access to the forensic examination of electronic devices?
No.
Did you have access to financial documents investigation?
No.
Okay.
Would those have changed your mind?
At some point, do you release your report to family? Or
Yes, unless there's some reason not to. Yes,
Okay.
they need it for insurance purposes and just other documentary reasons.
Okay, so on, can we take a look at State's Exhibit 124, please? Do you recognize this?
Can she change her report after she's given the report based upon the
It's
information
scrolled
given to
on-
her?
Oh, okay.
I guess maybe they could
It's a records
reopen it.
request form.
Okay. There's some notations on it about ready for pickup and pickup. And
You may need to zoom in, Mr. Burns.
this record is from Office of Medical Examiner, is it not?
Yes, but it's not something I would normally be looking at. So
I see. Okay. We can, let's move on. During the course following the death of Eric Richins,
Back up,
until,
buddy.
the records were released, did you have an occasion to talk to Kouri Richins?
yes, multiple times.
Okay. And how did that, mechanically, how did that operate?
She would call and leave a message with the front office staff. The front office would leave a message on my desk, a written actual message form.
Can we see States Exhibit 122, please?
And then I would call her back.
Okay,
Do you want her to see 122?
122.
My apologies. One moment. Witness can see it.
Are those the slips that you received from your reception?
Yes.
Okay. And then the policy of the OME to document when you talk to people, such as when you call?
Yes,
Kouri
we have a
Richins?
log form that we fill out.
Okay. They see States Exhibit 123. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, it would have been information that I typed in from a conversation.
Okay, on March 17th and then later, April 21st of 2022?
Correct.
Do you have an independent recollection of those conversations today?
Not
I
explicitly.
mean, how
No.
could she? How can she?
So did
3
Kouri
years
Richins
ago.
provide you certain information in those conversations?
Yeah, she provided me a lot of health related information, indicated that he'd had Lyme disease 2 years ago, and that he was still having problems with neuropathy. So therefore he was getting treated for that. And that's apparently a chronic problem that you can have with Lyme if it's not treated right away with antibiotics. Also indicating that he wasn't feeling well currently or right before his death, that he was not feeling well in general and his chest hurt.
Did you
And
explain to her about the granulomas that you observed?
yes, and so the not feeling well and chest hurt could have been part of the problem with just recovering from COVID, as well as this granulomatous lung disease that he'd had from his chronic work exposure.
Did she offer up any other information to you?
That his mom had died from a fungal infection 3 years prior.
Okay.
And so, we did fungal stains just to make sure that his lungs weren't showing any indication of fungal pneumonia. And then just the fact that, he was a stonemason, and that's where he was getting this exposure to what I was seeing in these granulomas. So that was helpful to me because, he's cutting stone. So
you mentioned that you did the stain. That's part of the histology. You went back and looked for or was that the?
that was for the fungal organisms. Yeah.
And did you exclude that?
Yes.
On April 21st, you had another conversation with Kouri Richins?
Yes, I did. And I believe that I indicated that the case was still ongoing. I asked if he ever had any history of drug use, and she said, other than just using some THC gummies, he had no history of drug use. So, so that was helpful.
Never used drugs is what your note says?
Correct.
Did she talk to you about those two substances on your list, the last one, the
Yeah.
ETOH tests?
Yeah. The medications that are used for helping people not to drink. Is that what
Yes.
you're talking about?
Yes,
Yeah. Basically, he was being prescribed those medications to try and help with his chronic Lyme symptoms.
I see. Did she say he hadn't used those for a while?
That he hadn't taken any of it for 4 months.
One moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is there-
Are we admitting 122 or 123?
The state would offer States Exhibit 123.
Any objection? Counsel?
Yeah, that's
So, yeah, no,
Okay. 1-23 is admitted.
no.
Mr. Ramos is witness. Okay. Very good. Okay, wonderful. Very good.
Wow. Hang on, I'm gonna pause. Pause. Yeah. Right. Wow, for a woman who deals with dead bodies, she's got a great personality, right? She's like, "Oh, I'd never seen one of these before." Looked like she was interested in looking at it, but would she be able to ascertain I mean, she probably could fumble her way through it, but I appreciate that she's like, "This is not my expertise. Do not ask me questions about this." She knows her limitations. Don't testify. You know, in some ways they're winning the defenses because she has it undetermined. So, like, stop while you're ahead? I don't know. I do like how they asked about whether or not he would have allergic reaction to it because that's what everybody's saying about the breakfast sandwich. She's so funny. Right. Okay. Okay, that was interesting. He's like one pill. I forget what the phrasing was. One and done, one pill, whatever. I mean, I'm not a fentanyl expert, so I don't know like what one pill would do. If I were if I if I were to get up and recross, I would say, what is a one whatever, and is that what happened here? Could that have happened here? Doing lots of hypotheticals, etc. Because they're saying that there's no like physical evidence that he killed himself. I mean, obviously, if he had an accidental overdose, you know, I don't know. Enjoy your retirement. Woo! Okay, that was the medical examiner. Wow, lots of information there. I mean, wow, she was a fabulous witness. So she just, went over the reports, etc. She just said, nope, Lyme disease was not a contributing factor. The nodules and stuff on his lungs and other areas were not indicative of him dying, but it was sort of like over long-term use, it could have given him some issues. She's not a toxicologist. She cannot talk about what was found in the gastric system about alcohol. She does know, she can say definitively he died of fentanyl poisoning. Well, fentanyl. She didn't say poisoning, but that's what they're classifying it as. That it was a drug intoxication by fentanyl, but the manner could not be determined. So, but there was no THC gummies in his system, but the quetiapine was in there, and whose prescription is that? Ding, 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 ding. So, very interesting. And that she made it undetermined because at the time that she was retiring in June, she retired in January, so she had 6 more months. The police didn't come to her with anything else. We know that Kouri Richins was arrested in May of 2023. May of 2023. So that's it. There's no changing anything right now. So who knows? All right, that's where we're going to end it today. Thanks for joining me. We have like one more witness, but we'll go over that tomorrow. Hope you like what you're seeing and subscribe so that you can see more. Bye. Thanks for watching Legalese 123. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe for more content.